All right, all right. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the God Factor podcast. It is another Tuesday, and we are here. Welcome to the God Factor podcast, your number one supernatural podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Renee, and this is the podcast where we share the goodness of God, His miracles, signs, and wonders that He is still performing in the earth today. Don't forget to love, like, share, and comment. We want to hear from you. So let's go ahead and get into it, guys. It's another wonderful Thursday. Wonderful Tuesday. And so I'm going to pray and then we are going to get into our talk to me section. So, Father God, we thank you for all that you're doing. We bless you. We magnify you, glorify you, and worship you for all that you're doing here in the earth and in our lives. We ask that you bless this podcast and allow it to bless your people, but mainly to glorify you. We want to glorify you in all that we do. We know you to be the El Shaddai, the Elohim Adonai. Jehovah Rapha, Jehovah Nisi, we know you to be our near and dear help. And so we love you, we bless you, and we are excited for the revelation for tonight. So let's get into it. How y'all doing out there? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Well, today is Tuesday. This is Tuesday. Every Tuesday, 7 p.m., we do the God Factor podcast, and we start off with our segment called Talk to Me. I changed that. I'm not sure. But anyway, we want to know, what is God doing in your life? What is He teaching you? What are you learning, seeing, or even being chastised for? So I will start off again here. Of course, I like to hear from you guys in the comments, but right now, God is teaching me about surrendering. And you know how sometimes you think you have gone through a thing and you're like, oh, I'm done with that. I have I'm past that, darling. I'm not there anymore. And then something happens and it's like, oh yeah, you surrendered this, but you haven't surrendered that. And so God is teaching me another level of surrendering. And I was talking to a good friend a couple of days ago about having a rebellious spirit. And I have to stop saying that because I have surrendered my spirit to God. And so but sometimes things be happening and I don't be wanting to necessarily do what it's called to do, or sometimes I just want to sit in my little tantrum mode, and have a little tantrum and do all the feels and everything. And so God is teaching me to relax, let that go, surrender those things to me. And that just because He's not doing what I want Him to do doesn't mean that He's not working. And so I had to surrender my rebellious spirit because he is doing a work and I'm having to be still, and that doesn't feel comfortable. So I've been having to learn how to really, really learn how to surrender my full will to the Father. So we'd love to hear from you. Some things in the comments. I'm gonna try to get my comments going here. Some things in the comments of what are some things that God is, teaching you, or what are some things that you may be learning or sharing or just kind of trying to figure out. But so even if you don't leave it today, you may be able to we can read up on some of those things later. I know for me, like I said, surrendering my rebellious spirit and really just getting into a position of um servitude. And so when things don't happen the way that I want them to, I'm learning to relax, surrender it to God, and do what he's told me to do anyway. Whatever he steps he's given me, just do those steps. And then um don't worry about the consequences. Um, so yes. Oh, hey Shantae. So discernment of his guidance. Oh, absolutely. I love it. Yes, discernment of his guidance, really tuning into when he's telling us to do something, and sometimes just being letting it just be that, okay. If it's one step, doing that one step and not trying to uh, think that it has to be so convoluted. One of the things that one of my mentors talks about is that, the kingdom is really easy if you follow directions. And as humans, we complicate things way more than they have to be complicated. We think it has to be all of the things, and if it doesn't feel this way, we come up with all of these reasons why things are not happening. And God is really um he gives simple instructions and you just have to do it. The thing is, it those instructions come with you just having that obedience. And for me, sometimes I'm just like, I want to know the who, the what, the when, the where, the why before I move. And God doesn't work like that. He's like, just be obedient. So um thank you for sharing that, Shantae. Discernment of his guidance. I am absolutely with you on that. And so I am working on being obedient and leaving the consequences up to God. So tonight, we are going to move into tonight's topic is, have you ever been a blessing while needing a blessing? Have you ever been a blessing while needing a blessing? And I don't know about you guys, but I have definitely been in situations where um God has called me to do something, and I'm feeling like I'm pulling from a place of like, this all I got. You want me to do this? I don't know. You sure, Lord? Or am I hearing you right? Even going back to that discernment thing, like, okay, I heard you say that, but I don't have gas for the rest of the week, and you want me to sow this to this person, or you want me to feed this person. And um it reminded me of in the Bible in First Kings 17:8 through 16, where Elijah is sent to go to where is it, Zarephath, in Sidon, and the Lord sends him to go there, and he comes across the widow, and she is like, she's come to the she's went out to get firewood, right? And he says, would you bring me a small cup of water to drink? As she was going to the water, going to get water, he asked her to bring some water, and then and she's like, okay, looking, I'm just assuming, I experienced the Bible, so I put things in the pictures for me. But then she says, and then he says, bring me some water, and while you're at it, bring me a piece of bread too. And the woman's like, look now, I'll bring you some water, but I promise you, all I got is a little handful of flour. And I just came out here to get some wood, because I'm gonna get this wood, I'm gonna make this bread for me and my son, and we're gonna eat it and die. And Elijah is like, well, you know, before you eat and die, don't worry. Go home, cook the food, he says, but first make a small piece of bread from the flour that you have and bring it to me. And I can only imagine the thoughts that's going in this woman's head. It's like, didn't I just tell you, first of all, a mother and her child, I'm gonna feed my son first. That's how typically we think logically, right? But you want me to, I just told you my situation. I just told you that I'm preparing my last meal to eat this, and then we are sit here and die from hunger. And you want me to share that with you? I can only think about the things that's going her in her mind, like how insensitive. Like, dude, you ain't gonna even try to help out. You want me to help you too, but but she does. She does that. He says the Lord, the God of Israel says that the jar of flour will never be empty and the jug will always have oil in it. Um, and I can even imagine just hearing that because you're coming to get this wood, you see this person you don't know, they're asking you for water and then asking you for food. You only have a limited, what it looks like to be a limited amount of resources, and you're probably hungry yourself. This child you got to feed, he's probably complaining and whining, not to mention and you're thinking about all of the things that you don't have, um, based on the little resources that you do have. And now, even what you have, you want me to share that with you, with someone else. But the woman is obedient. So she goes home and she does exactly what Elijah told her to do. And her son and her have enough food for a long time. And in fact, the jar and the jug doesn't go empty, it continues. Um, and that's just how wonderful and magnificent and majestic the God we serve is that even when we're in our what appears to be our destitute moment, if we would take the focus off ourselves and even look at someone else and be willing to serve them, be willing to take the focus off you and put it on a bigger picture. She was willing to not just take what because she could have if she would have been in her flesh and worldly, she can be like, I'm listen, I told you this all we got, we gonna eat our stuff and you gonna have to figure it out. This all I got for my child. And she didn't see any way, but she was willing. And because she was willing and because she was obedient, God blessed her 100-fold. And one of the things that this just reminds me of how many situations I've been in where, listen, where God has, hey, Savogi, where God has um, blessed me because of my obedience. And how oftentimes, even in those situations, what it appeared to be like, once I was obedient, I could see the ram in the bush. I could see other ways of provision for me. And it goes back to we talk about in our friend group that we live by the seed. This woman, really, that's what she did. She sowed. She sowed into the prophet. And because she did that, God was able to multiply. She was willing to give of even out of her destitute. She was willing to give out of what she felt like she didn't have. But because she was willing to do that, God was showed up and just began to just pour out. From that one act, that seed, she was able to feed her family the Bible says for a long time, and she didn't go empty. Um, like you said, sometimes obedience is needed to be followed blindly. Yes, Savogi, it is. Oftentimes we don't, and that's the faith part, right? Like you said, that's the faith part. That's the trusting God part. Um, and that's the kingdom part, because if I'm in my flesh and I'm looking at what I can do, then it seems like it's not gonna be enough. If she was just looking at that little, I could just imagine, because I've been there where when we were growing up and we only had, so much in the refrigerator. And I used to get so frustrated with my mother because my mother is this way. We grew up poor, But she was always feeding the kids in the neighborhood. And I always just used to be like, listen, you got 5 children yourself. We barely got enough to feed us. But my mother was always and has always fed the neighborhood on her the little bit that she had. And because of that, my mother will never go hungry. She's always provided for. And when I look at how God has used her, even in this situation, this bringing this up in this situation, even how God has used my mother, people are always going out of their way to do things for her. And it's always because even when she's in situations where it doesn't look like she has enough, she'll always give. She always gives. And we were talking about in our friend group, we say we live by the seed. And I did a KSA a couple of weeks ago about, seed time and harvest is always here. If whatever you have, God never asks you to give what you don't have. He asks you to give what you have. So he didn't ask her to give any more than what she had. All she had was a little flour and bread. She was going to make the bread anyway. And all he did was ask for, give me some of what you have. Because when you put what you have in the hands of the Father, he's a God of multiplication. He can multiply that thing. He can do exceedingly abundantly above all that we can think and act. But when we're trying to do it in our finite minds, we're trying to do it from just us in this natural dispensation, it does seem like it's bleak. It does seem like you don't have enough. But if you were willing to, one, like Savoki said, that faith and being and following blindly, if you're willing to sow a seed, God is able to work with it, but he got to have something to work with. And so, and we see this in other places in the Bible too, where um, God asks, like even with the lady with the oil, where she says, uh, he says, she comes and she talks to Elisha and she's like, I don't have anything, I don't have anything in my house. The debtors are coming to me. They're asking about all these things. And he's like, go around, get all of these canisters and with the oil in it and start pouring it. And with the canisters that you get from all of your neighbors, start selling your oil. So she was willing to be obedient. And because she was willing to be obedient, he gave her a whole business idea that turned into, that fed her family for not just her, but it fed generations. It fed her children. Um, and she was able to live off of that because she was willing to be obedient. So I want y'all to even just think about that, even in the situation that you're in now. It may not be something that you're in now, but one of the things that God has also been teaching me in this season is, um, we've been going over Deuteronomy 8:18. Remember the Lord thy God, who it is He who gives us the ability to produce wealth. And one of the things that I did last night was remembered remembered all of the times where I felt like there was a roadblock, all of the times where I felt like, God, I don't know what to do. I don't have enough. All of those times where it felt like that. And in the natural, it seemed like that. But every time I went back, every time I sought you, you gave me a way out. Every time I saw you, what looked like disaster, you've turned it out for my good. And what God actually had me to do was get my journals. And I have a seed journal too. So where I've sown seed and I can look back over that thing as to all of the places where he's been faithful. And so I was reading, y'all, I was in my bed just boohoo crying. Just like, you are so faithful. And in those situations where I felt like I didn't have enough, but I was trusting God, and I've learned a long time ago to sow a seed for whatever need I have. And when I started just looking at that, and it just was evidence of, remember the Lord thy God. It is I who will bless you exceedingly abundantly. It is I who gives you the ability to produce wealth. It is I who provides all of your needs according to his riches and glory. So I was going through my journals and looking at some of the prayers that I've wrote, looking at the things that he has um, answered for me. And then yesterday, like I said, I was saying that I had a rebellious spirit, and God is, working on me with that, surrendering my will to His. And God is so good. So yesterday, I had that conversation with a good friend about me being rebellious and surrendering. And then on the back end of that, another friend sent me this worship song that was just like ridiculously, like, just took me in higher levels. So yesterday, as I was listening to the worship, I was going through my journal, boohoo crying, and just remembering all of the times that God has been faithful, all of the times that God has brought me through, all of the times that He showed up for me. And because I had these journals, it just was evidence. But then even the things that weren't written down there, that He just start flashing things before my eyes, it's just like, how are you still doubting me? Like, how are you still doubting me? But, in this human experience, right? Hey, sure. In this human experience, right? We have those times where we get into our feelings, and we're looking at everything that we can see. And oftentimes it looks that way. And I think God does that for a reason, because He's like, I need you to come back. So every time you act like you forget, come back to the Father. Seek ye first the kingdom and all of His righteousness, and these things will be added to you. And so, um, tonight I just wanted to talk about, it have there been times where you've been a blessing while needing a blessing, and God has asked something of you for you to do something. And when you did it, it just turned out for your good. And there will be more times where God will do that. Will be in situations and where He'll test those things, as we grow, because I am in this time in my life, because God has told me that we're going higher. So there's going to take another level of maturity. I got to see if you remember. I got to see if you're going to be obedient, if you're going to do what I asked you to do. I got to test it and see it, because I need you to remember these times, because where we're going, we can't be dealing with baby stuff. I need you to come on up. So, in all of that, I can't keep having these tantrums and being rebellious and being like, okay, I know this is what you told me to do, and I don't want to do that. And God is so loving and kind. And this morning, I was in my prayer, and I just, asked for forgiveness when I went into the throne room. Uh, yes, how quickly we forget, Savagi. But I went into the I went to the throne room this morning, and I was just like laid out, and I just was like, I'm so, just, Lord, forgive me. And and God just Abba just gave me a hug and kissed me on my forehead. And I told my friend, that emoji where the person's like shaking my head. I said, I know this is probably the God's head emoji for me. It's just like this girl again. Like, she just keep coming up here with this mess. We gonna keep doing this. But in my prayer time this morning, and in my intercession, in my visit to heaven, um, I got some hugs and kisses. And I just, even thinking about how good I just think about how loving my dad is here on earth, and how when I do stuff and he still hugs me and kisses me, and you know and how much more of that, how good the Godhead is. And in entering in this morning and feeling that love, and feeling, you know, just like a child, and being forgiven. But knowing that the Father is such a good Father, that He chastises me, but also instructs me and teaches me. And I'm just so thankful for that. And I'm sure He does that same thing with you guys, just like, girl, come on up here. Like, you done with that? Because we all have those moments, where we regress, and then God just says, okay, now come on, I'm gonna bring you back up. And so, in those times where God is asking you, or where you have to be a blessing to someone else, I'm going to pray and ask Holy Spirit to help us to remember the Lord thy God. For we will know that you are faithful, you are loving, you're kind, um, that you are Father, and that you want the best for us. Your plans are for us to prosper and be in good health, even as our souls prosper. And that you are a loving and kind Father, and you want the best for us always. So when we're feeling like, oh Lord, you asking me to do this, or we're taking that breath, that you bring to our remembrance of who you are and what you've already done, and that we will do it cheerfully, and that we will do it even more suddenly and more expediently than we have before, so that we can mature and, just be even a more blessing to the kingdom, because that's what this thing is about. God is still doing miracle signs and wonders in all of our lives, and he shows up in all of these different ways. And I just think that it's a blessing of how we can remember all of those things that he has done for us, when he's called you to be a blessing, even when it seems like you don't have it, or when you seems like you need it. And more so that when you do that, when you do bless the person, know that because you sowed a blessing, you got to reap a blessing. So the more blessings you sow, the more you will reap blessings. Okay. So that's just, and when you sow, when you reap even more. So if I sow um $1, I don't get $1 back. I get that compound with interest. Okay. And so God is just that good. So just be thinking about that God is a God of love. He's a God of joy. He's a God of blessings. And that if he's asking you to bless somebody else, it really just means he's trying to get some blessings to you. So that's all I have for y'all tonight. It ain't gonna be long. I just wanted to share that with you of, how can we be a blessing? Because just thinking about that, like when God is asking me to bless somebody, even if it seems like I don't have enough, that just means that he's trying to get some blessings to me. And that's all right with me, because I'm here for all of the blessings. Okay. And I hope that you all are too. So before we go tonight, I do want to say, our sponsors are The God Factor. Of course, we have our The God Factor podcast, but we also have merchandise. So if you guys want to support the podcast, you can go over there to um, thegodfactor.com, and that's THEE godfactor.com, and you can get you some shirts. And this is our newest edition, is Born to Reign, is our newest t-shirt that we have here. But we have all kinds of things over there that you can support the ministry for. If you want to sow into Revelation, that is something that we definitely honor, and we will touch and agree with your seeds. And believe for you for whatever God is asking, or whatever you're asking God for. But also, if you want to sow into the ministry, you can sow at Cash App. It's the THEE God Factor as well. And then if you have prayer requests, or anything that you want us to touch and agree with you on, you can send me a DM, or you can you send me a DM, and I can touch and agree with you. And if you also are looking for some spiritual mentorship, we definitely do that here too. You can always send me a DM, or you can go to the God Factor admin at thegodfactor.com, and you can also send us an email if you have some prayer requests, or if you want to partner and you got some things that you want to work through. We have worked through helping get some deliverance for different people, and so that's what we're here for. We want to see those miracle signs and wonders. We want you set free so that you can go out and also help to free other people in the kingdom. So also, if you are looking at our billionaire status website too, we added some new things because I had a request. One of our ladies said, I got this t-shirt, but I want it in different colors. And so guess what? We got you covered, girl. We So if you go to billionairestatus.com, that's billionairestatus.com, we also have some tank tops, t-shirts, and in different colors there, as you can see. But if you believe that you're heir to the throne, joint heir with Christ, then you can rock that and get you some billionaire, um, get you some billionaire, you know, get you some billionaire, paraphernalia. But so go to billionaire status, and you can also get those links. Will be in the comments here to check us out. But anyway, I want to thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Savogi. Yes, I appreciate that. I do want to be transparent because that's what we need, honey. Listen, we need the real because God ain't playing with us. He need us to get people in this kingdom so we can live this kingdom life, and that's what we're here about. So. It has been a pleasure speaking with you all tonight. Um, I am your host, Tiffany Renee. This is the God Factor podcast where we talk about the supernatural, God's miracle signs and wonders that He's still performing in the earth today. And we hope that something here is shared that will bless you. So remember to love, like, and share this podcast. And we are here every Tuesday at 7 p.m. My co host is out right now. We want to keep Chantel's family, Miss Sean's family in prayer. She's had some death in the family, and so we're praying for her and her family as they grieve and mourn their loved ones. So she will be back with us next week. But we'll be back next week with another topic here and sharing the goodness of God. Let me see what is next week's topic. Um, Oh, next week's topic is 40 days or 40 years. You gonna lick that calf again or have you slayed yourself? So is it gonna be 40 days or 40 years? So we're gonna talk about what is it gonna be. So that's gonna be our topic for next week. We look forward to blessing you and we look forward to hearing from you. It has been a pleasure. You all be blessed. And until then, see you next week.